Welcome to Kicking It Local, the podcast all about the football community right here in South Australia. I'm the host, Johnny Kecko, and today I am joined by a player who has played over 300 games in South Australia and also is the captain for State League 1 side in South Australia for the Port Adelaide Pirates. James Skeffington, mate, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it.
It's good to have you here, mate, because not only you're the captain of Port Adelaide Pirates, but you've been there for a very long time since your junior years.
Yep.
Despite a small little period where you went off to Croydon to play in the NPL and had a little bit of a success over there before making your return back to Port Adelaide. But I want to talk about the club first of all that you're currently at and where you started your junior years. One of the oldest clubs in South Australia, been around since 1903.
Yep.
And they've gone through a bit of tough times, obviously, through the wars, now the pandemic recently, and also some other tough periods. But they managed to keep standing through that period. What's it like at the club now with that strong culture there?
Yeah, as you said, it is the oldest club in the state, and sixth oldest in the country. So it has quite a special history, I guess. A lot of people have come through the doors and played for the club, and guests and stuff that have been to our old ground at John Hart and now to our new ground at Taparoo. There's history all over the club rooms. It's all in our change rooms as well. All the players that have played 100 games for the club at senior level are names all around the top of our change rooms in our first team room. So we just try to continue on that culture as much as we can, especially being one of the leaders and being there and learning off of the guys that have come before me, and what it means to play for the club, and photos galore. It's it's a special place to be around for sure.
They embrace it a lot still, the culture there, obviously.
As much as we can. I mean, when we've moved from John Hart to Taparoo a few years ago, I don't know if you've ever been down. We were down at John Hart, but the whole club rooms was covered in photos. All the way back to the as early as we can go. They've only managed to put up half of those at the new club rooms. There's sort of some restrictions with the council and all that at the moment, so there's a fair bit of history that's away at the moment. But we new players and new people come to the club, whether it's at junior level, senior level, or volunteers and all that. We try to make sure that people are aware of, we're proud of the history of the club, and we've got 2 books that have been written. Well, one book originally, and then a continuation on from that, another 10 years, History of Port Adelaide Soccer Club. I'll get you a copy. You'll be right into that. So, that sort of, is the story of the football club, and it's a good read.
Like you said, I would love to read that. It would be good to learn about the history at the club. But what do you reckon has helped with its long existence for the club?
Yeah, I think just honestly having hard workers, the battlers, obviously. The club's been through, as everyone has, tough periods, and we're no different. Probably pretty similar to the Port Adelaide Football Club in the AFL in terms of where our the original people came from. Wharfies and battlers. So the club's sort of just founded on that. We don't have not the richest club by any means. We got to sometimes battle above what we can, but we always seem to strive when it comes to that. So I think it's just sort of the people around the area. You grow up in that area, you sort of have that spirit, that Port Adelaide spirit, and I guess we try to carry that on as much as we can.
People from Port Adelaide seem to be very passionate about not only Port Adelaide Soccer Club, but also the footy club as well in the AFL, the Sandford. They always seem to be a very passionate bunch of people in that region. Yeah,
and that's exactly right. I think it's just probably come from the harder working class down there, and I guess that just rolls into on the field, the way they play, and the success obviously from the area as well. So. I guess that's pretty much the main sort of core of it.
Yep. Well, you've been there since you were in under 11s.
Yeah.
What enticed you to go to that club at the Port Pirates at such an early age?
Yeah, well, I went to primary school down that way, and obviously you play in the local, you play against all the other schools, and one of the coaches for West Lakes, Shaw, was a coach, coached his son and a couple others in the under 11s, and we used to play against him, obviously, and he wanted me to come down. I actually went and trialled with Adelaide City, believe it or not, sort of maybe just around that time as well, and didn't make it. So that things might have changed a little bit different. But anyway, I ended up going down to Port Adelaide and had a couple of mates down there as well, and it sort of just grew from there.
So you just always wanted to be playing football at an early age, or?
No, I was actually come from my family's actually more Aussie rules orientated.
Okay.
Grew up, I didn't really follow soccer a whole lot. I sort of here and there, but I was more Aussie rules.
Yep.
And it was probably because my friends at primary school played soccer, and I sort of just switched codes a little bit. I still played a little bit of football, but from a younger age, I think they sort of saw something in it, and I just sort of was alright at it, so I just sort of stuck with it from there.
And before I chatted to you a little bit off air, you mentioned how you were playing at school soccer as well, and you got an opportunity to go overseas.
Yeah.
What was that experience like over there?
Yeah, so it was with an academy, like a training academy. That experience was pretty much set me up for getting into the senior setup at an earlier age, I guess. You develop a lot quicker overseas, especially in England. They're pretty ruthless over there, and I remember being day off the plane and 15 years old or whatever it was, and the coach at West Ham saying you have to prove to us why you're any better than a kid that lives down the street, and that sort of stuck with me because they're right, and you can imagine these players, 15-year-olds that are a lot bigger and a lot stronger at that age and in the program already. So it was a tough ask, but dropping by the time I got back, I certainly could feel that I was a little bit quicker and a little bit sharper than the players that were back here, and it probably helped with breaking into the seniors at 16, not a couple months later, I guess.
Well, how did you find the experience up there? Obviously training with West Ham, and then also with West Brom and a few other clubs as well.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Obviously, it wasn't cheap for my parents to send me over there. But as I said before, it's something you can't describe playing with there. You sort of feel like you're playing a different sport at sometimes, especially when we first get there, because they were a lot quicker than sharper than you, and you sort of, you go to chase the ball there and the ball's already over there. So especially at 15, you're out of home, you're on the other side of the world, really. I didn't have any comforts with me, and I was just staying with a scout that saw me as well. So I guess it made you grow up a little bit more. But yeah, the technical side of things, they're amazing over there.
Did you feel like there was an opportunity to go further there, or did you notice there was a...
Yeah, I did. I did as it went on. Yeah. So I went from West Ham for a couple of weeks, I think, and then I'm not going to sit here and say that I was anywhere near that. That would be a lie. So and then I went to West Bromwich Albion, who were championship at that stage.
Yep.
And then from there, I stayed about four or 5 weeks, and then went to Leyton Orient, again, dropped another league. And as I dropped leagues, I sort of felt a bit more comfortable. Maybe if I started there and, for the first couple of days and then maybe moved up, things might have been a bit different. But as I said, the players over there at that age, they're very good players and hard to break into, and only really train. They only really train or go to school, once on a Friday if you're in the academies. Most of it's just a lot of training. So coming from my setup over here to their setup, you're sort of playing against people that are in the professional setup, so it's hard. But once I dropped down to Southend, there was an opportunity to go back. They wanted me to come back. They were interested in me coming back a few months later, come home. Unfortunately, a few things went against me in terms of the connection between the scout. I'm not really too sure. There was a bit of a falling out, which wasn't great. I think it was a money thing. I'm not too sure. And then it sort of just fell through after that. And at that stage, that was it, I guess.
Yeah. And did you ever want to go back over, or did you just give up and just focus locally?
I can't remember my exact mental state at that time. Possibly, I think. I'm sure I would have. Maybe now I think about it more, I probably, if I had a chance again, maybe gone to a different country over there, maybe Scotland or something like that, if the opportunity arose, but it didn't. After that, I didn't really chase it too much, obviously, until they started bringing the youth team in, Adelaide United, and that was a couple of years later. But overseas, that was it, I guess.
Well, when you came back, you did manage to make your senior debut for Port Adelaide Pirates at the age of 16. What was that like back in 2006?
Yeah, I remember that. It was a Friday night at home against Northern Demons. We beat them 5-2.
Battle of the Port.
Yeah.
Port Pirie versus Port Adelaide.
Exactly right. I remember it very well. It was everything. At that stage, I wanted to really play. I was I used to go and watch the games. We'd play Sunday as a junior. On a Saturday, we'd go and watch Port and the seniors and all that. And I wanted to play for them. And saw some of the blokes I played with later in years. You sort of looked up to them and club legends at that time. And some of them now still some of my best mates. And took me under their wing when I was quite young. And they sort of made me want to keep playing. I didn't really feel like I wanted to perform, so I didn't get dropped, and sort of never wanted to go down. And I was lucky enough I had a good coach around me that was my under-19s coach from the year before. So he sort of stuck with me, and I ended up playing most of that season. It was probably the start of, what the rest of it, I guess.
You were there for 10 years playing senior football.
Yeah.
What was that period like for you to continue on for another 10 years playing for the same club?
Yeah, it was a lot of heartache, I guess, trying to get promoted, the main goal. And there was players before me that had stuck by the club when they had offers to go to play at the higher level in the Premier League and whatever it was back then, and can't even remember. They changed the leagues a few times, but the first division, we'll call it. And they never went. They always felt that connection with Port to try and stay to get the club promoted. And I sort of bought into that, and I felt that I was a big part of that as the years went on. Started becoming, a contributor to the team, I guess, and felt, that if I left and a couple other players left, then, it would be a lot harder for the club to get promoted. And ultimately that was the goal. We had a really good, strong squad and good players that could have played, plenty of years at the Premier League level, and decided to stick around. So, I just decided to stick around, turn down a lot of offers by other clubs every year to stay, and ultimately got the success in 2014 after, as I said before, heartache in a few years where we were thought we were one of the better teams and maybe lost in the finals. And,
In that year, you won Player of the Year?
Yeah.
2014?
2014, yeah.
What was that like to have that successful year at the club after all those years playing for them?
Yeah, well, that was probably my most successful year, I guess, playing like team-wise and, individual as well. I scored some crucial goals towards the end, in the back end of the season, in the last month, that probably won us a few games. So on a personal note, it's probably as high a standard as I've played at. And then to contribute to winning the championship, and then so many players that I'd played with that, there was only a handful of us that had been there for, well, there's only two other guys that had been there for my 10 years or the previous years. But the players that stuck by us for the years that weren't there for that winning thing, it sort of meant a lot to them as well. And, previous coaches and presidents and stuff that, had set sort of the foundations for the club. And, for that success, it meant a lot for us. So,
well, 2 years later, you ended up leaving the club. You got an offer to go into the NPL, which was with Croydon FC. What led to you leaving? Because you had obviously some huge ties at the club. What led to it? Yeah,
so we obviously won at 2014, got promoted, went up to play in the Premier League with the same team, and we actually were pretty good that year, to be fair. We dropped off a little bit towards the end, but we were pretty competitive. 2015 at Port, and I don't know if you remember, the Federation brought in that relegation between the team that finishes fourth to bottom in the Premier League plays the team that finishes third to top in the State League One.
Yep.
In a 2-leg playoff game, home and away at the end of the season. So we finished fourth to bottom at Port that year. So any other year we wouldn't have got relegated because I think they were changing the leagues back.
The structure, I think
The
they
structure.
were, moving the structure around.
So
yeah.
any other year we would have survived, and we ended up losing to Olympic over the 2 legs. They beat us 4-0 at our ground. Actually, that was my 200th game, and we got relegated. And then I wanted to keep playing NPL. Obviously, we worked so hard to get there, and to finally be able to test yourself against the better players. And I was mid-20s at that stage, 26. So I was right into sort of my prime, I guess. And I felt it was time for me to go, move on, and take on a new challenge. And I had a few clubs speak to me leading up, to the pre-season and work out which club I wanted to go to. And it was hard to leave. I had to speak to, tell some close mates and blokes that I've played 10 years with, and club legends as well that I was going, and they were all happy for me and understood the decision. And Mark Brazzali, who was a coach at Croydon at the time, he gave me a call. He was actually the last club to call out of the few that did call. But I'd played against Croydon, so my early 2000, I guess 2010, 11, 12, Croydon I think they just got promoted around that time, and they were a really competitive club, and sort of have a lot of similarities with Port in terms of their history, in terms of their sort of hard-working nature and relying on volunteers and that sort of stuff, and I guess that sort of generation of people. So I had felt a real connection with Croydon, and they were really keen to get me, and Luke Klimek and Rocky and a couple other boys had called. Michael Dahl was there at the time, and a couple of them called me, and I played against a lot of them for years, and they were really keen to get me. I just felt a real close connection with them, and I decided to make the move, and so.
Well, what do you think that move to Croydon did for you on a personal level? Did it make you a bit more of a stronger player?
Yeah, absolutely. They were, I think for me initially, I'd been in a bubble, obviously at Port, and was obviously you could call it a comfort zone because I didn't know any different really. But to go into a new club and new system, new coaches, new players, new teammates, obviously it made me learn. I guess I grew up a lot in those times. I had some family tragedy early into 2016, which right at the start of the season, which Croydon got around me quite a bit and got me through that hard time. And they didn't have to go to the lengths that they did through that period, but they did, and I'll be forever grateful for Brazza and everyone else at Croydon for the way they sort of handled that situation, being new to the club, and instantly felt a connection with those guys. And as I said, I grew up quite a bit through there, and on and off the pitch, I guess I learned a lot from the coaches there, and obviously more of a professional environment, and under a system, a Premier League, sort of football, you can sort of tell the difference, and I sort of learned that a lot there.
Despite how hard that time would have been for you as a personal, on a personal level, what do you think that moment like with the club, the way they supported you? I'm not sure what happened with you on a personal level, but what do you think how that shaped your future at the club? Obviously, seeing how they supported you, do you reckon that changed the way you saw the club afterwards and made it a little bit easier for you to move there?
Oh, yeah. Well, it just sort of reiterated that I'd made the right decision.
Yeah.
I looked for a club that, it wasn't about money for me. That it was more about what kind of club and culture from where I come from, whereas what's best fit for me. That's the main thing I looked for when I moved. And that sort of just reiterated that I made the right move off the field, first of all. My dad passed away. That's what happened early 2016, and
sorry for that.
No, that's all right. And Brazza being the sort of father figure coach that he is as well, and he really, really takes his players. Puts an arm around you when he needs you. He's hard on you as well as a coach as well, and he did that for me quite a bit through that period, and so did other people at the club as well. And I guess it made me want to repay them.
Yep.
I stayed there obviously for 4 years, and was a part of a little bit of success. They've had a golden generation of success at Croydon in the last decade, and to be to play a little part in that, I'm certainly proud of that.
Well, that obviously, as you said, that would have helped you and reassured you that you did make the right decision, and knowing that they backed you would obviously help you perform better then, make you feel a bit more comfortable. But you went on, obviously, with them for the next 4 years, but in that period, you unfortunately lost the cup final, but also you managed to win as well the league.
Yeah.
What was that like to be a part of that team in 2017?
Yeah, that was probably up there with 2014, I guess, probably on par. From how we did it as well, like being, to win 3 elimination finals against some really good opposition. Obviously Adelaide City at the time and still are. Probably that set the tone and set the bar for everyone else. And Metro always obviously strong, and Campbelltown and all that around that period as well. To win the way we did, and to battle through those games, and then to ultimately test yourself against the best at Highmarsh and have that success. It just sort of, I could have gone to a couple of other clubs and wouldn't have got that same success, but it just sort of worked out so well. Everything on and off the field, that 2017 was sort of just the icing on the cake to be able to win the ultimate, I guess, at this level. And to do it with some great players as well, Luke, Rocky, Michael Doyle, Sean, Nathan. I could go on for minutes about those guys, but to ultimately win that and share that and celebrate that with that community, it was an amazing feeling.
Now, talking about playing alongside Luke Clemick, who's been a massive part of Croydon's history, you celebrated a massive milestone alongside him as well, 250 games. You both did it during the same match. Yep. What was that like to celebrate that big milestone for yourself personally, but also alongside a club legend at Croydon? Yeah,
it was a special day, I guess, for both of us. I probably felt a little bit embarrassed that he deserves so much, and rightly so, from what he's achieved and what he's done for that football club. So, I sort of wanted to take a little bit of a back step on that day, but they still celebrated it. My name was around, and they gave me a big signed Guernsey with a plaque and stuff on that, and posters up with our 250th. So they went to the lengths, which they probably didn't have to, but that sort of shows what the club's about down there, and how they treat you, when you buy into what they're trying to do. But in terms of Luke, I mean, what else do you need to say about it? With a player like that, and to share that day with him, and it's something I'll never forget.
Since then, he's obviously gone on and celebrated his 350th.
Yeah,
and it's all still for the one club. He hasn't left. Some people say you're like a one club man, but you've obviously played 4 years away from about 80 games or so away from Port Adelaide. But he's done it the whole way through. What do you think for someone to be able to do that? You've been close to doing that, but how hard is it, and how much of a commitment is it to play for one club for that many games? Yeah,
it's probably the ultimate test. I mean, there's no more, probably from my time at Port and Croydon, there's probably no player that I've seen more dedicated to his performance and his training and his standards, and he sets the tone down there for his standards and the way he trains, and ultimately, very rarely misses a game, and that's probably why he's got those extra 20 or something games on me. But he's ultimate professionalism, and probably deserved in my eyes probably a little bit more credit externally from the federation and those sort of awards that they hand out. But each to their own. That wouldn't bother him one bit. He's certainly internally, very much appreciated at the club, and I mean, he's the heart and soul of that football club. He's probably their most successful player. I can't imagine there'd be too many more at the local level that have achieved what he's achieved, and to captain the club for that many years, and to do what he's and still doing it now at a high level and in multiple positions as well shows true dedication and character, I guess.
Yeah. Well, while you're at the club, you obviously in 2018 is when you lost the cup final at Croydon, but that's also the year that your former club, Port Adelaide Pirates, also got relegated from State League 1 down to State League 2.
Yeah.
You remained at Croydon for another year, but what led you to moving back to Port Adelaide Pirates?
Yeah, so 2019, I had the end of 2018, we were in a relegation battle at Croydon, and I had a groin injury, sort of a duct area, played through it and got to the point last month, I think, and we ended up surviving, but I ended up doing a lot more damage to the area, and I was out for most of pre-season the following year, and I just had some real bad problems through there, some really bad tears, and 2019 I was in and out with injury and didn't really have a great season at all, and I got to the stage where, and a few of the other boys had left as well. Some of my closer mates, Croydon sort of went through a little bit of a change. Brought in quite a few young guys, and a couple of the older guys from our championship year sort of moved on, and it was still the same and stuff like that. I probably just thought about it more on a personal level, about where I wanted to, did I still see myself playing regularly, and had some honest conversations with the coaches at the time and felt that was the right time for me to go back to Port. They came and had a chat with me and wanted to know if I was interested in coming back and captaining the club. And I'd been vice captain in the club for probably 5 or 6 years before I'd left. And ultimately, I guess, you don't really, think about those sort of things until they sort of you give them the opportunity. And they gave me the opportunity if I wanted to come back and lead the club, and I felt it was the right time to come back and try and help them get out of that State League 2 and build that culture back up, because I without being there, and I don't want to get too much into that, but I knew a few things weren't sort of the way we left it when we got relegated 2015, and a few of us players left. The culture probably wasn't quite the same, and they were going through a lot more transitional period at that stage, and it's probably the right time to go back and try and help them get out of that league.
Obviously, they dropped from the top league, Division 1, all the way down to, by the time you got back, was back in the 3rd division now.
Yeah.
So a big job to come back and do that. What was it like for you to jump in that role, and did you know what it was going to be like, what task you had ahead of you?
Yeah, I certainly know that, in any team sport, it's certainly you need people around you. You can't do it all by yourself, and I was certainly making sure that things were, as much as I can do on the field, and try and lead off the field. Other people, you need to have right people in all certain places of a club to be successful, and that includes getting promoted from State League 2 to State League 1 and State League 1 to the Premier League, and ultimately winning it. You need all things in place, and the club has gone through a bit of a restructure as well. New president came in the year after, and the coach left, and my coach I had for years, he left, and they brought in Moggy as the coach, and I knew the challenge. Definitely knew the challenge. I knew State League 2 was going to be tough. I played all those years in State League 1, and I knew how hard that was to get out of. So I was prepared for the battle. Probably certainly not as technical down there, but players don't give you time. They're right on you, and I knew that was going to come. So I was open for the challenge for sure.
2021 proved to be a successful year for not only the club but also yourself on a personal level. You played your 300th game for the club.
Yeah.
During that time, it was a big win as well on the day. I think it was a 4-0 win over Seaford.
Yep. It was 4-0. Yeah.
You scored the third as well, top corner. What was that like for you to not only celebrate that day but get a massive win that was pivotal in your in that year to get the promotion at the end of the year, but also score as well?
Yeah, it was a great day. I remember it a lot. I had a lot of family down there. My daughter was born as well by that stage, so she was down there, although she was too young to remember it. But my grandpa was around still at that time as well, so it was quite a special day. And a lot of old teammates were down there. Club probably went overboard celebrating it, but I appreciate what they did for me, and to score a goal and to win like that pretty comfortably, and we battered them pretty much for the whole day. So I guess it was set up, and it was it was a really successful and good day. So I'll never forget it for sure.
You said they went overboard, but 300 is not something to go lightly on, because it doesn't seem like, it seems like it can happen quickly, but actually not many players get to that level, especially in the early 30s like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. I probably could have been, to be honest with you, if I didn't have the injuries over the time, I probably would have been closer to 400. But it is what it is. To get to 300 is a pretty special milestone in any sport, and especially to do it, leading your club, your boyhood club, through. It's a very successful season as well. It sort of just topped it off at the end.
Towards the end of the season, it became very close. Adelaide University obviously were top. I've spoken to Barney Smith, who was in the NPL that year, coaching, and he was talked about how they finished off final game. They scored and won the final game in the dying seconds, and that's where they got top spot.
Yeah.
And that happened in State League 1 as well. And it also happened with your league as well. And you were on the other end of that, where you were same end as him, and won promotion through the last game of the year. Yeah.
So we actually went on a 9. I think we won 9 in a row through that back end of the year to catch uni. And obviously they faltered on the last day of the season, drawing with Seaford at home. And we ended up going up to Gawler and having to play up there, and they made it hard for us to begin with, but I think once we scored our first, we sort of got on top. I think we ended up winning 3 or 4.
Yeah, 4-1.
From memory. So we sort of went in thinking that uni were going to do the job, and we were away to Gawler, so we sort of hoped that it was going to happen, and when it did, I think for me it was probably a lot of relief, to be fair, because you sort of had the ultimate, what you came back for was to help the club get out of that division. So to have that sort of come at you that quickly, you sort of play the game, not expect it, get the result, and then, to get that feeling after, and knowing that, I don't know the uni game or what actually happened there. I knew they drew, but it sort of just happened really quickly, and I think our game finished. Yeah, our game had finished, and we had people on phones to people at their game, and I think the news filtered through that the whistle went and they'd drawn the game. So, it was just an unbelievable feeling, and be able to celebrate that night. It was. Wish you could go back there every week. But
what was the celebrations like? How long did it last for you guys at Port Pirates?
Yeah, so obviously we were up at Gawler.
Yeah.
And really didn't have anything planned for after the game. I think, as I said before, we were sort of just expecting uni probably just to get the job done at that stage. I mean, they were a pretty good side then, and we had some battles with them both times we played them. So we knew that, and being at home as well, we sort of thought they were going to get it done. But as I said, it filtered through to us that they had slipped up, and we celebrated, as you can imagine, at Gawler in the change rooms, and then ended up going back to the club. The club opened, and everyone made their way down to the club. Unfortunately, which is not ideal, the trophy and the medals were at the uni's ground, from what I've heard, and no one wanted to make an effort to come and deliver that to us. So we didn't have the trophy or the medals to celebrate that, and that was a little bit of a shame, but we still enjoyed the night. Obviously, you have to back it up the week after when the finals start, and ultimately we didn't get there for the grand final. But I think we it's hard to, once you've, I guess, succeeded in what you were trying to do, because everyone's main focus is to finish top, and then if you don't, then you sort of get a second chance at promotion.
Yep.
Whether or not you some players maybe mentally drop off a little bit more than others because they feel like they've achieved it already. So the final series where, if you're in I can imagine uni at that stage were probably pretty hungry to secure promotion by winning the grand final. So you can understand those sort of players are probably up for it a little bit more. And we ended up sort of getting knocked out in the prelim and losing to Vipers. But yeah, I mean, we sort of felt like we did what we had to do.
Yeah.
And that was to get the club promoted. And you look back on it now, that last 9 games, we played some really good football and dominated for quite a few games. So yeah, we did what we had to do.
And your club's got some very loyal fans that have been stuck around for a long time. Just recently you had Rhonda, who's 80 years old, celebrate. I remember meeting Rhonda years ago separately and just seeing the passion she had for the club. What's it like having people like that around the club and then also being there for those moments?
Rhonda's been there since I can remember. Certainly been there from when I first broke into the seniors. And she's there every Thursday night. So club's open Thursday night, so do dinners and stuff like that. So she's out there. She'll watch bits of training and then head home a little bit earlier and have some dinner down there as well. But there's a number of this familiar faces that have been there since I was 16 and breaking through, and the same old heads that come. We got a fairly decent away support as well, which is good. And obviously, some people that were still working and volunteering at the club have been there for 40, 50, 60 years. Jean Lohman and Tony Kalea, pretty much done every role they could possibly do at the club, and that's they're the sort of people that make you want to play for the club and buy into the history of the club.
Well, next year will be 120 years of the club. Any celebrations coming around for that, or still?
Not that I know of. I think the focus is to. I think the main focus this year was to try and just avoid relegation and stay up, which we've managed to do. With a couple of games to go, so I think everyone was sort of just focused on trying to retain that State League 1 status, and I'm sure the club would do the right thing by celebrating it the right time whenever that is. We'll have a little break over the off season, and then I'm sure they'll do what is necessary to enjoy that milestone.
What do you believe is so important about the sponsors you guys have that have helped you get through all the years that you've been there as well? Yep. What's it been like having them a part of the club, especially like your major sponsor, St. Meat?
Yeah. Shannon, he does quite a bit down there. He's our major sponsor, and we've got a handful of sponsors that always are chipping in, and if they're not donating, they're giving up their time to help around and all that sort of stuff. So we've got quite a loyal sponsorship base down there, and we thank them for everything they do. We like any club, they wouldn't be able to run without the sponsors. So we appreciate it, and they certainly do everything they can to help us.
With a sponsor like St. Meats, what's it like at the club? Do they put on any extra barbecues and stuff like that for you guys?
Yeah, so he. As I said before, we have the dinners every Thursday night. We've got pretty much like a pub menu. That's how much they do. Yeah, they do quite a good effort big effort down there, and he supplies all the meat for that.
Yep.
They also do every home game. They do the magic numbers where your winner gets a meat tray. It's a big box actually that he supplies all that and donates all that. Wow. So, and obviously all the meat that they sell on match day. That's all donated and stuff from him as well. So he does. He's also our treasurer, and his wife Mel. She's there every single day, and she's a volunteer. And Mitch is their son. He plays in our first team, so they're quite a connected family to the football club. And St. Meat's certainly a big part of that.
That's it's always good to have a sponsor like that, and someone that obviously as a treasurer puts so much into the club.
It's not just our club. He actually does a lot of sponsorship he sponsors North Haven Football Club as well, and a lot of stuff around that area along the peninsula there, and I'm sure there's other things he sponsors that I'm not aware of, but his name's sort of plastered all around it. So he does a fantastic job.
I do see it pop up everywhere, which is great for his company. And Pyrolife Brewery, that are based in the heart of Port Adelaide, they also support your club as well.
Yeah, Pyrolife, they're on board a little bit with us. Hopefully we grow that relationship a little more as the years go on. Obviously you can see the connection there, and they buy into the history of Port Adelaide, and they're obviously sponsoring Adelaide Oval and the power and all that. So we've got them on board, a little bit, and building that relationship. We get the guys down there for, in pre-season, we have a big lunch and drinks down there, and they've come to a couple of shows that we've had throughout the year and sponsor us that way as well. And we've got their beers over the bar and stuff like that. So it's a growing relationship for sure.
We'll see a Port Adelaide Pirates can at some stage?
Hopefully we can, we'll see. We'd have to grow it a bit more. I've got a couple of mates that work for him as well, that have helped out a little bit. So as I said, maybe in the future, hopefully, for the 120-year thing coming up, that would be a nice little connection.
That'll be good.
Let's see what we can do. I'll bring you a carton if they do.
Oh, I'd love that. Well, we've seen obviously, White City, obviously, they had their on tap, their own branded beer, grad beer.
Yeah.
And I think Elizabeth Downs have their own cans as well. So it'll be good to see a Pirate Life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love that. But I like their 120 year and beer connection, so might have to make that happen, I think.
Definitely make it happen. I can advocate for it as well, I reckon. But throughout the years, you have some great players who've come through there. And most recently, you guys have signed on an ex-Adelaide United player and also a very good A-League player in Dario Vidicic.
Yep.
What's it like to have someone of his caliber now joining your club?
Yeah, it's amazing. It sort of just came about by his son plays for in our mini Roos junior sort of set up, and I think his nephew has stuff as well, and his family live around the area. His wife's family around North Haven. So yeah, he trained with us a couple of years ago, just training before he was going back to Asia to play.
Yep.
So I met him then, and to have him, you can imagine the standard that he brings. To play 20 odd caps for the Socceroos, to have him playing with you, you don't think that would happen, especially down at Port Adelaide. But having him down there, his ability on the ball is still there. He's technically gifted. He's a very good bloke, and he buys into what we're trying to do as well.
Yeah.
He stays for dinner Thursday nights, and gets the junior trainings and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's good.
Has he brought in a different a new lease on life for the club as well, having someone that big coming at the club?
Yeah, I guess. When they announced, unfortunately, he hasn't played yet. He got sick. He had a pretty bad chest infection the last few weeks, and he was back up in Queensland with his family, with his parents and stuff like that. He's back. He's trained this week. But yeah, I think if you go on the socials and see when they announced it, I think it was, one of the most commented posts that we've ever done and likes. So I'm not sure of the numbers, but you can imagine for our juniors. I think the first training session we had him, we train on the main pitch, and then you've got the club rooms, and then you've got your two back pitches. It's Monday, Tuesday nights as juniors out there. After they finished, you can imagine the rush out to watch him train with us. I think there was maybe 30, 40 kids keeping their parents there to watch us train because he was out there. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it's big for the club. Hopefully it grows in whatever capacity that is, whether that's playing or just being around the club. It certainly gives us players as a boost as well.
Before I let you go, I have to talk to you about this particular result you guys had recently, because you never got a chance to play in the Australia Cup or the FFA Cup. You missed your chance with Croydon. You got there about a year or so later after they had their chance playing in the FFA Cup back in 2015, I believe.
Yep.
But a team that's most recently had in your league, in the State League 1, the first team ever in the state leagues to play, Modbury Jets.
Yep.
You faced them, unfortunately, straight after their round of 32 game against Armidale in WA. They were on a high. They came back and played you guys on a Monday night.
Yep.
And they showed how great they were as a team in the State League 1, which eventually got them promoted into the NPL. They came back and really proved a point by beating you guys 10-1, which was 7-1 at halftime.
Yep.
What was that game like for you, and then end with that scoreline?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't play that game. I was out with a driver injury, so but I'm not sure if watching it or playing was worse, because to watch it, I mean, I have to I'll give credit to them. They're a super side for State League 1 and very sharp and very quick. And we sort of had 2.5 weeks off from our last game, and they played two pretty high intense cup games, against Adelaide City first of all, and then to travel and to play in that. So they were probably a little bit more prepared and harder at the contest than what we were. And as I said, you never like to, that scoreline. I've never been defeated like that before. it hurt us for sure.
Yep.
We took a hit that night. Our colours got lowered as a football club. I'll give them credit for sure. They were pretty clinical. I think they only had, when I say they only had, I think they had 15 shots and kicked 10, scored 10 of them. So they were clinical. I spoke to a couple of Michael Daw after the game, who's one of my close mates from Croydon days, and he said they were, they saw this sort of performance coming against the weeks leading up to the contest where they weren't as clinical, but they were creating a lot of chances. We lost to them 5-2 earlier in the year, and we were up for 60% of the game, 2-1 until the last sort of 15-20 minutes. But they can turn it on really quickly, and they're really sharp.
And if you look at it anyway, the week before was the weekend was cup round, so they had a game against Adelaide City. The final, you guys were off, obviously.
Yep. Then
they had another game midweek against Armadale. So they had 2 games in 2 weeks. You guys, unfortunately, had that 2-week period off.
Yep.
So they had a bit more match fitness than you guys.
Yeah.
The game.
Yeah, I mean, you might look at it, we got a bit of a rest, but I'm not sure at this stage of the season, especially going into those last few weeks, I don't think you want to be resting. I think you want to be building.
Yeah.
I think you want to be playing as much as you can. And it certainly showed.
But I had to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I understand. You weren't the first person that asked us about it, but it is what it is. Look, we have to back it up. We have to go out and train, and we're not hiding from it. It is what it is.
And I think it proves how good of a team they are and deserve to be in the NPL.
Absolutely, they've got players that are, should not be playing at this level. Credit to Modbury for putting a team together like that. And credit to their coaching staff and their players. They're really, really sharp and, got a good system and good depth. So I'm sure that they will build on that for next year, and I'm sure they'll consolidate in the Premier League with that squad.
Well, I will stop talking about the 10-1 scoreline against Monbury Jets, but thank you for joining me. But before I let you go, I've got to talk to you about, I'll ask you the kicking it questions I ask every guest.
Yep.
Not sure if you're aware of these 2 questions that I ask every guest, but the first of them is, who would you love to kick it with on the park? Anyone in the world?
Anyone in the world? My favourite player growing up was Alan Shearer, because I'm a Newcastle United supporter.
Okay, yeah.
So, probably Shearer from Newcastle, I guess.
And who would you love to kick it with on a Saturday night and have a couple of Paralife beers and watch some footy as well? One locally and one international.
One locally, one internationally. Well, I've got one of my close mates who does his own podcast. I don't know if you've seen that, Pep Talk, Steve Pepper.
Oh, yes, another good podcast,
He's I've managed to get him down to Port Adelaide the last couple of years. He's always a bit of fun on a Saturday night.
Yep, I can imagine you would.
And he's got a very vast friendship groups as well. So it's never a sour moment with Steve. So I'd have to say Steve, and what was the other one? Sorry,
international. Anyone?
Have a beer with internationally.
All together, I reckon, on the same night.
Same night. Oh God. Well, probably. Look, it has to be someone. It has to be soccer.
Could be whatever.
Be whatever, eh? Is it possible to say the same person? Like, can I say Shearer again for being more idle growing up?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, I think. I mean, having a kick with him and then a beer after.
Yeah.
I love Newcastle United, so to do that with to be able to do that with him would be probably a memory you never forget, I guess.
I'm sure Steve would want to bring the microphone as well so he can record the pep talk that night as well.
Yeah, and probably his speakers, because he's a big speaker, because he carries that everywhere as well.
Does he?
Yeah.
No, awesome, mate. Well, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate getting an insight to your career and also your club at Port Adelaide Pirates. They've had a large existence here in South Australia, the oldest club in South Australia. So It's good to see the culture down there and how much it means to you to be playing there as well.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks, Johnny.
That was the captain for the Port Adelaide Pirates in the State League One, James Skeffington. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon!